All right, really excited for this video. I'm gonna be talking about the new, and I'll get to why I consider kind of new here in a second, USA-Made Squatmax-MD. Now this one's gonna be a tough one because I could easily make this an hour-long plus video talking about what I particularly like about it, what separates it from other belt squats on the market, its current and evolving features, and most importantly, how I personally like to use it. So I will do my best in this video to kind of hit on all those cylinders here, alongside maybe a little bit of commentary and recordings I have from the owner and creator of the Squatmax-MD, Brian Henny, who, if you guys have watched the channel, know maybe the backstory here. I did have the Titan Fitness Squatmax-MD, made some videos and reviews about that. Also had a long interview with Brian. So if you guys want some background context, I will link those videos down below. And the question may come up, and I've addressed it in the past. People wondered, why did you get rid of the Titan Fitness Squatmax in the first place? Long and short of it was, once I started hearing from Brian about all the future iterations and evolutions they're gonna have on the USA-Made one, I really wanted to get that. I'm gonna talk about what separates this from the Titan, because there are some pros and cons to that for sure. These are made in Wisconsin from a company called Dynamic Fitness. Originally, these were made in Pennsylvania, so it's been a while since he's kind of ramped up USA production, and he's got some really cool things coming on the horizon. I just love, as you guys watched my channel before, I love when stuff's USA made. So I will break down, for you guys, if you think it's worth the upgrade to say pay more money for this one versus the Titan Fitness one. And just again, throughout the video, I'll just give you guys my own personal take on how I use it and some other close-up shots on how to use it also as well. All right, now let's talk about what are the primary differences between the USA-Made Squatmax-MD, made by Dynamic Fitness over in Wisconsin. I thought that's pretty cool. Got this nice little hat here. Versus the Titan Fitness one. Before we get up close and talk about the features, let's first discuss the price difference, because I'm sure it's going to be on everybody's brain, and see if the USA-Made one justifies the higher price tag, and also what you're getting in the baseline packages here. So Titan Fitness, at the time of this recording, definitely is the cheapest. Starting out, it's made overseas, so you're going to be kind of expecting that a little bit, but it is priced at $15,499. Then compared to the USA-Made Squatmax-MD, that is $2,025. A couple things to note right up front. The Titan Fitness one does come with a standard seat. I would say this seat by Brian is a little bit more, has more adjustability points. I'll showcase that as we go along here. But you get a seat with both of them. Of course, you get the basic guide rod setup. They are including in the Titan Fitness one now their transformer pin. The transformer pin I thought was a mainstay. I don't think it came with my initial run of it as well, but it's basically a long protruding steel rod. And I think there was a couple different versions. You had a shorter one and a longer one. I think the longer one is considered the transformer pin. You essentially have to have that, in my opinion, or at least if you don't, you gotta find something like it, because it really opens up all the doors so you can find different positionings in using the guide rod setup and different foot placements. You are also getting the overlay pad, which is maybe sitting behind me. That's where you can get kind of a more narrow stance. That's also coming with both base models as well. But then compared to the USA-Made Squatmax, again, you're getting the same kind of situation there, but instead of the transformer pin, you're getting what's the newly dubbed extender pin, which is a multi-positional transformer pin, essentially, that gives you 3 different hold positions. And this is extremely useful. I think it's extremely valuable. I would say I don't say you have to have it, but I kind of say you have to have it. It really opens up the doors. I think if you did not have this, you're really missing out, because all these different positionings, I find myself messing around with all of them. I think the middle one is probably the best, most versatile I find, but I constantly am switching out the different positions on the fly, and it is much better than switching out the different transformer pins, transformer pins that used to sell the old model that I used to have. So it just fits kind of right in here. Now, one caveat that's worth noting is if you have the Titan Fitness one or you're thinking about it, you might just consider, well, I'll just go ahead and pick this up, which it is $75. You can do that. And all Brian's accessories, if you bought the Pennsylvania models, where these originally were made in the USA, versus the Wisconsin one, he's made it and configured it. So even if you bought the old USA-Made ones, you can still go ahead and pick up the new stuff that's coming out, and they'll work interchangeably. But that is not going to be the case for the Titan Fitness versions. That's going to be kind of out of luck. So maybe they might make something like this eventually, but extremely valuable, and this comes with the baseline package. The other thing you're getting are these JCup holders, and I'll show this later. These are really cool, not just to hold a barbell, but it has these things that protrude out that will hold the barbell in place. So when you're loading weights, the bar is not gonna topple on you. But again, you'll see that in a little more detail as we go along here. However, Titan Fitness does sell an accessory package, which I do not think was available at the time when I first got my Titan Fitness stuff. And it's one of the reasons initially I really wanted this, especially when you consider the hip bridges and glute bridges you can do. So for an extra $459, you are getting these JCups on this side, but I do not think they have those protruding things on their version of it. You are getting an additional pad, and this one does look very similar to what Brian's looked like initially as well. They give you that glute attachment with their foot plate, and then a little barbell thing that goes on top of that glute attachment. If you want to do things like deadlifts as an option there as well. And then on Brian's side, for an extra upgrade, I think it's $22.90. I had to look at my notes here again. That is what gets you their glute upgrade, which I'll show you. I don't think this comes with it, but he did include this little, I think this is from AbMat. This kind of helps protect your butt a little bit from kind of hitting stuff. But you get their version of this. You're also getting, this thing's pretty heavy, this glute bridge pad, which I am told based on the dimensions, this is actually wider. Also a little more heavy duty in the way this was kind of designed with the little notches in here. They also give you this little barbell here for some deadlifts or things of that nature. And then this counterbalance rod, which I wouldn't say, definitely there's more for safety and maybe liability purposes. And I think Titan Fitness also has one as well, but this is there so in case you do things like seal rows, the machine won't topple over, but this is also coming with that package. And then on top of that, you can go ahead and actually pay additional cost to get another secondary seat if you so choose on their website. Also, totally forgot, of course, you are getting both belts that go with the belt squat machine. This one is also made in the USA. I think he said it's made out of West Virginia. This was the original one. We covered this in the first interview we did. But Brian actually developed the first padded belt squat. You'd think someone would have thought about that, but there's like kind of a proprietary way this is actually made, so it actually is comfortable, and it is very comfortable. Also kind of these like daisy chain type of loops. He uses his different, it just says like a special different, which not special carabiner, I've seen these before, but this carabiner is included on his version, and Titan Fitness, this is not the exact same one, but it looks something like this. The only downside with this one that has these little knurled ridges, which is definitely nice, is that sometimes what I don't like about this is you'll accidentally kind of lock it in unintentionally. And the other thing I noticed, which is, again, probably minor, not a huge deal, but I noticed on my Titan is that this little knurling, whenever I would take it and go in and out of the loops, would scuff up the looping and would just kind of like have these subtle tears. So if any feedback of Titan Fitness, I think they are still using these, I would ditch, or if you do have this, I would ditch this type of carabiner and get kind of more like a smooth, thicker, bigger carabiner that they're using here. But regardless, on whatever machine you're thinking about getting, I personally think it is 100% worth it to go ahead and get that accessory package that has the glute bridge option. To me, that's one of the great things about this. I didn't have a glute bridge machine. I think this is actually better than most hip extensor type machines out there. I can tell you this, if I forget this as well, since I've been using this, since I've had this for going close to a month, my glutes have been in a perpetual state of soreness in all the different ways I can aggravate and hit my glutes on this machine. And one of them being that glute bridge, which I love how this feels with band tension. So I think it's a mainstay. So if you're comparing total costs, like I said, Titan Fitness with the accessory package, you're looking at close to $2,000. And then if you get the glute bridge package with Brian's, or I keep saying Brian's, he gets a cutback, of course, being licensed to Titan Fitness, you're looking at roughly like $2,200-ish. So the way I kind of narrow this down, you're basically paying another extra $200 to get something that is made in the USA, and as we'll see in a second, is going to open up more doors for other attachments that are coming down the pipeline. Brian did give me a discount code, which does give me a little bit of a commission back, but I can tell you it is double digits. It is nothing crazy, and Brian has told me too that, as you can imagine, getting stuff made in the USA is much more expensive. His margins on these are not crazy. I don't even know if they're even comparable to what he gets back with the Titan. I have no idea. But even the shipping costs and what this costs in general, I did want to put that out there, though, guys, that this is taking up a lot of real estate. And if I didn't like this as much as I said I like this, there's many things that could replace this that would make me more money. All that to say, I think this thing is legit awesome right up front in the middle here. So I just want to make that clear if it doesn't sound like some big paid promotional type of thing, of which it is not a paid promotional video. I've never done that on this channel, but I just want to put that out there. So all things considered, I think you're getting a $50 discount, and I think it's, in my opinion, it is going to be worth the $100+ as we'll see here in a second on some of these comparisons. I'm just going to go handheld mode and get close and talk about some things that are pros and cons and differences between both machines, but also discuss some of the features. First, starting off here, I would say this is maybe a mini con possibly, and that is up on this these handles. So one thing you notice is that you no longer have a knurling. Now I think I even said this on the Titan Fitness video. I have to go back and watch it. These can actually come off if you actually want to, but you just have this soft padding. There's no knurling here. And I think even the Titan one, people were talking about how there's knurling on the Titan one. I personally said even at that one, it was very subtle. It was passable, I would say at best, but definitely probably better than not having it. I'd probably prefer the knurling versus this padding, I guess if I'm being totally honest, but I guess I don't really mind it that much. And this can, you know, kind of like to kind of come off a little bit, or at least I did force it off one time, but that is one difference in the Titan version. The dimensions of the Titan versions, I can flash those on the screen really quick, but the dimensions are pretty much identical with one subtle difference. I don't want to confirm or deny this, but the cutout of the hole, from Brian was told me, I guess I'll just say this, he prefers this over the Titan cutout. I'm not sure if it was a mistake or not, but their cutout is a little bit more kind of like oblong in the wrong direction of what he liked. So I'll have to say the cutout here, also with the overlay that goes over it, just like this, is a little bit more accurate to what he prefers. I'll just say that with his dimensions. Something else, since we're also on here, I think both versions also come with a PVC pipe. The initial one with the Titan, I do not, at least mine, I do not think came with it. And something that was very common is as you're going up and down this guide rod, you really rub and scratch this. And you'd often find when I didn't have it, because I did not have it, there would be like all sorts of like metal just scraping, collecting underneath the Squatmax. You can see there's a little bit of just the PVC getting worn on both ends. I would switch that, but both with the Titan and also the USA-Made one does come with a PVC pipe to get those kind of pre-cut for you. There's actually a little slip that also comes with it, and I will show you that here in a second, that if you don't want to worry about that getting attached, you have this little slip that you can attach right down here on that little notch there, and that goes to the bottom of this. I never use it. I think it's fine. I mean, it can come off, but I think if you're going to switch these things out, it becomes more of a pain than it's really worth if you're going to be switching out the glute pad or the hip extension pad. Something else I noticed too, that I think this is a better improvement. I think in his initial video, Brian had a thing on his website that talked about there was in the manufacturing process, I think in the Titan one, or maybe it was the old one of his, there's a little divot that popped out. This is all smooth, but that divot, he always would say, put towards the back of the machine, because that divot would kind of aid to or just kind of contribute to some of the scraping of the guide rod. A question I did ask Brian of a concern, and I don't know if I'll even get to some of the audio recordings, so this is already getting kind of long, is I was really particular about, will this ever bend? Because if this ever bends a certain direction, then of course that's not cool. That would be something that you'd have to kind of replace that bottom positioning, that bottom part. But he said he's never had one bend. Of course, you don't do anything excessive in putting a lot of weight and just leaning backwards on it and holding onto the rails, or holding onto these he said he's never heard of any of these actually bending. Both Titan and the USA-Made one have the wheels. Here's also that built by Dynamic. I think that's a nice little cool touch. Again, made in Wisconsin. I think that's also nice. Here are the JCups that do come standard on theirs. Now here's the little feature I was talking about where these can pop out, and you'll see some footage if you haven't already of how this helps secure the barbell in place when you're doing various exercises. There's a little pull pin here that looks like this, and I got a bunch of these little not springs, like whatever, bungee straps. I just don't want to connect them, but you got a couple of cheap little push or pull pins there that come with it. There's a little notch, I'll show you on the other side, that if you actually want to lock these in, there's a screw right there that you can tighten these down more, so there's not really any wobble, because there's going to be some play and some wobble, so that way you could say is a con with that. He also gives you this piece here if you wanted to raise this up higher, say for doing preacher curls or whatever. That's where you can use this little pin to just raise this up higher, otherwise that will just be a little bit too small. One pro that is noticeable right away that I wish this did have is that Titan Fitness does have 1-inch holes on the side of their machine, so that might open up some doors if we're just kind of attaching and putting certain 1-inch hole accessories. The other thing Titan Fitness has is a knurled front handle here to pick it up. The USA-Made one has these plastic end pieces here. I do like the branding, I'm not gonna lie. Again, I'm just one of those weirdos that just love stuff when it is made in the USA, so it always just makes me feel, as I always say, warm and fuzzy whenever I kind of use it. I actually put my collar hooks, I keep one collar hook here, shameless plug, collarhooks.com, discount code down below for these. These are cool. I actually use this for attaching bands. If they start to get pretty heavy, like the 1 inch, anything above a 1 inch and beyond gets kind of tough to rig this, and I'll show you guys that in the video on how I do that. But I will just kind of grab this and pull it and rig it to each side. So I usually keep a collar hook just right there. Moving on this side, this is something that I believe is not standard, maybe as of yet, or maybe isn't made, but it did come to mind, so I have to double check and I can pin a comment if this is true, but he did put some weight horns on this side so you can go ahead and store some of your weights. I'm leaning on eventually getting some 35s and probably storing them there for doing the narrow plate inlay, and I'll discuss that as we kind of get to the more of the function part of the video. Also, don't think these come included, but I could be wrong on that. These are ab mat spacers to put some spacing between the different weights because you're going to need that. And I got some other spacers that actually, Quantum Free Trainers, you know, they sent me those for their machines. I've been using that over here. I'll bring your guys' attention down here. This is that little screw, and you can get a couple of these. I'm sure these are kind of standard issue, but if you want to just tighten any of these arms in, you can kind of secure them so they won't. I'll just show you right here. They don't move. It's pretty solid. And you might want to use it for this attachment, which I think is very cool. This is their 3x3 attachment where you can do things like dips. Of course, I had to put the Voltra on there. Everyone likes seeing the Voltra in action. Some don't, but I want to show you. You can mount whatever you want. That's a 3x3 1 inch hole. I got a landmine attachment here. I even tried it a couple times where you can put this attachment on that side and then have a barbell going across, anchoring it here for various landmine exercises. So that can be like a holder. These can be like makeshift holders for a variety of things, and I'll show you guys that as we progress as well. But the point is that's definitely going to open up some doors. Just a cool little function to actually have that as well. Okay, so as I'm taking some stuff off and I tip this thing on its side and show you something else with the Squatmax, is a huge thing to consider that I would say is really what put me over the edge on wanting to hold out and see the USA made version or go that route if you guys are a big Squatmax fan, is that all these different side components, and I probably should have started with this, are not going to be compatible with Titan. They look similar, but they're using a different system being made overseas. So everything that's made in-house that's coming out of the line first, I'm not saying Titan couldn't, of course, make this stuff eventually, is going to be kind of a faster turnaround in making new things with the USA made version, and is all going to be, like I said, compatible to the Pennsylvania made ones and these Wisconsin made ones. But they are not going to be interchangeable with the Titan Fitness. Other big thing that this particular model has versus the Titan Fitness is the breakdown in setup time. I think Brian said it takes roughly, I think it was 10 minutes to break this thing down. So if you are going to move or bring this thing downstairs, upstairs, or he even said he brings us to like his lake house. People do that. You can have these little pull pins that come in and out, just a simple pull pin like this, and the feet just slide out. There's a pull pin here for the arms as well. So you just put it on its side. You probably take the arms out first and then just tip it on its back side. Take these little arms out, and actually there's even pull pins here where this whole unit comes out. So assembly and disassembly is very easy and does not take long at all. All right, since we got this bad boy on its side, this might be a good segue talking about attaching bands and also using bands, because if I didn't say it, I don't think I did yet. This could be a whole future video. This is possibly the ultimate hybrid resistance machine in using variable band tension and or, of course, using free weights or plate loaded stuff. And that's one of the great things about this, is that it is very simplistic in its design, which is one of the reasons initially why I loved it so much. You have no moving parts, no moving cables, very simple in design. Now they do give you, if you get this USA made dynamic version, and I believe Titan Fitness, I'm sure, at least I assume they would, maybe give you some bands, but dynamic does include some bands. You can tell they're standard issue bands. This kind of dimension, or this kind of thickness, these are 41-inch bands, by the way. And Brian did tell me, I asked him what his preference was. The old Squatmaxes had other band options. He said he just prefers and found that the 41-inch standard bands are best. because of the most versatility and how you can rig and either set up double loops or single loops and all sorts of ways of using it, and a little more consistent in their tension. Also, there's kind of more standard issue across the ground. Now you can go super heavy. I mentioned, and I'll show you later how I put them on using my collar hooks if they get heavy on its side. I don't do this. Not everyone's gonna have the space or wanna do it this way, but this is probably maybe the easiest way to actually go ahead and attach bands. And I think these are probably the best default bands, the ones that come with it. This dimension and size is gonna be the best one. Brian also told me he leaves his bands attached unless he's switching them out different sizes and just replaces his bands once a year. So that's something to do. I'm a little more anal when it comes to bands and tension and leaving stuff kind of taut. I would assume it's going to lose tension over time faster, of course, so I take my bands off. What you do is you get kind of just a loop like this, and of course you'd want to get a little more even. I put it more towards the back side so it's less likely to kind of slip off. Nice little even loop here, and if you have it on its side, it's much easier to go ahead, unless it doesn't move on you, and just kind of pull it up here, and now you have that band tension. From here, you could put one, you could put double loop, that's pretty much what I mostly do, or you can go ahead and grab 4 loops. Not everyone has the ability to get down on their knees and put these on, but I'll show you how I go ahead and attach my resistance bands. For reference, these are Clench Fitness. They have great resistance bands, got a lot of resistance band companies and affiliates down below if you want to save some money on bands, but I got their purples, which is one of my go-to all-purpose 41 inchers. I got their black ones, and I might even try it. I haven't tried it yet because honestly, when you put these on, and I'll show you in a second, these are pretty hard by their own right. As I said, the red pretty much does the job, but I'll even try and putting on these super thick green ones with this little trick that I do. I'm again going to try and get them kind of even. There are these little rubber stoppers on here that like to kind of pop on and off, so that was something that I just leave off actually. All right, so here, pretty tough to go ahead and pull those on. I just loop my collar hooks through. Usually I get over 1 like that, and then I'll just grab the other one like that. All right, that's pretty taut. Let's go ahead and try these green ones. Definitely tougher, but still doable. I can still do it with those collar hooks. I got to position a little more, but I got the green set up there if you really want to use something thick in that. I got a crane scale set up, and I'm going to put the 4 loops of a purple band on here to show you what this is going to look like. I'm not going to get all the way up with it, but you get the idea more or less. So about 282. This video is going way longer than I really wanted to, so I'm going to have to throw some other follow-up videos in the future, but I do want to talk about my favorite uses for it and why I particularly like this Squatmax-MD compared to, say, even a Rogue Rhino, which I possibly could still do a comparison video, but I think I already know how I'm going to feel about it. The Rogue Rhino, which is great and is a great little compact option for this, say going in like my RM3 off the side over there. And people might argue that's more versatile in the sense that you can do other things with it. I would argue this is more kind of true versatility, as Brian argues the same thing, in the sense that as far as your legs are concerned, because yes, while that is a Rogue Rhino might give you a straight vertical pull down, there's a horizontal shift and pull with the way the mechanism works in the cord. So he has a lot of anecdotal. He also, of course, does research to back it up, this being more superior to actually activating the various musculature in the legs more superior than the Rhino. Without getting too far in the weeds there, and also glute med activation, just your glutes in general. I just find that glutes for sure across the board, this meter is excellent. But in a nutshell, without getting too long-winded again, I just find I have way more options in the leg department, not to mention the upper body stuff you can do on here, which I'll showcase here briefly in a second. But I got some band tension set up here. And that is again why I like this. I've already said it, but this is one of my favorite just resistance band machines, and just the way the tension kind of feels. And I like to kind of mix and match. Some days, the hardest thing with this machine is finding which one I want to do. Do I want to do bands and weights, or just weights? But if I'm just doing a basic guide rod squat, I find I have more of a forward lean, almost like I'm doing the posture I would do for like a low bar back squat. And even from this position, glutes, hamstrings is where I'm feeling this. It's great, but let's just say you can't get as wide. And I do notice that when I do squats in general, I like to have a little bit narrow, more of a stance. And that is where either the overlay plate comes in, which is over here. And I've been finding myself using this, or wanting to use this a lot more with band tension and then moderate loads. It's like 25s or so. I'm gonna get some 35s actually because I like the overlay plate more than I thought I did. But even if we wanna go and just adjust, sit a little more further back, even has Brian, who's got a bad back, really bad knees. This is why he made this thing. he cannot do knees over toes. I know there's a whole debate about what your preference is in that, but with all these 3 options on the extender pin, I'm constantly switching back and forth between positions. And that's probably, again, it's a good and a bad thing because I'm not really constant, because I'm constantly throughout a workout just dabbling and trying different things. So if I want to go more vertical, I can go in that middle pin. That's kind of a nice sweet spot. I can sit a little bit more here. And I can even, a lot of times I'll even ditch this off, but not everybody can get that low. But I can sit a little further back, still have vertical shins, and it depends what your emphasis is on quads or glutes. I can go all the way back here in this position, sit even further back. Again, true vertical, you know, pull straight down as far as the weight's concerned. Great exercise Brian taught me the other day. That is another just next level unique thing, aside from just all those different positions with the squat. I didn't even mention deadlifts on here. Deadlifts are great. You just need someone to rack it back when you're done. So, but otherwise, I love even deadlifts for that same reason, because of that nice center pull that is just so direct. Kind of similar with the Vultra gives off, but even this is the best of both worlds, because while it is a center pull, there's still some instability where you can kind of feel that just being different compared to other things. There's a static cable pulling you down. This exercise Brian taught me, not having a warm up or anything, this can be kind of tough. He was seeing if I could pull it off. I believe he had the grip like underhand and over like this. You're stepping off the machine kind of like this. It's a single leg squat, but it is super tough. Lights up your quads like nothing. And first time I did this, you know, I felt it for a few days. Very deceiving. You do not need a whole lot of weight on this. And just a great, excellent single leg squat. That's only probably the 3rd sequence or time I've actually done that, but that is an awesome. So love the squat variations. What I'm discovering a lot, what I love even, I'm not saying more so, but an equal benefit I get out of this, aside from the leg stuff with the squats, is going to be, also deadlifts are great, is going to be the glute bridge attachment. And if it isn't obvious already watching this channel, I love working the glutes. I think they're a very important, underrated muscle that people should be working, and I'm not talking about aesthetic wise, although it definitely plays a factor, but just for managing low back pain, functionality in the hips, and even the knees to the ankles, that's very important, is building up and maintaining your glutes are strong. So having this mechanism is also really cool, because it's another added benefit of this machine, of which that's getting 2 machines in one, aside from the other things you can do with it. But most importantly is how good it feels once you kind of dial in the setting that works for you. So let me go ahead and show you how I set this up. You're gonna want a pad on this side that, for the most part, I could put notches on here, but I find I'm not committed to one particular position yet, that I still just kind of go with how I feel and just setting up that day. And told me to recommend to get a little more kind of kinked up at an angle. You do have to, you know, make sure you're not kind of like stressing your neck in any kind of awkward position. Put something a little bit higher, but depending on how high this is also going to make a difference on where you want to put this foot pad placement. I don't really mess with this angle. Actually, I take that back. There's a couple subtle things I've changed, but for the most part, I leave this as is. Then you go ahead and put this attachment on there. I actually go ahead and leave these carabiners just on there. Let me go set up the band tension. Not necessary. I don't think it comes with it, but this is this barbell bomb from AbMat, I believe, makes this. Works out perfect there. And then I put mine in the 4th loop. And for reference, I'm 6 feet tall. And what I still do, Brian says you don't have to, I've kind of gotten used to it, is he says you only have to have one of these locked in, so you can ignore this one. So he'll actually take this out. He says it won't hurt the machine. Again, I'm kind of babying this thing still, so I do kind of lock both out. But again, you only have to have this one closed off if you want to. All right, so I start with some pressure. Obviously, again, no weights really on here. It is just basic band tension, is very light. But I actually like the way this feels, even with just lightweight. Just doing some reps here for you guys. And if I want to lock one side, you can do that, and it is fine. All right, next thing I want to talk about are these pads. And they are crazy versatile. I've yet to even scratch the surface on what you can do with them. But main thing Brian likes to show off on this are the seal rows. And if you can catch the first part, you're skipping around. I'll jump to the scene again here where you can lay a barbell across the J hooks, but then also you have these positions here that can fine tune that setting. And you could rig certainly seal rows on a squat rack. You might need some other things. So it depends how worth it is to you, but this is for sure an excellent exercise. I just did it the other day and was again surprised how these felt. I was using the Kensui handles, which are around here somewhere. I've actually covered those in a whole review. I'll link those down below as well. Those work so you can do kind of a neutral grip, but great way to kind of do seal rows on here. The other day or literally yesterday, I was doing the whole angle setup with here and doing things like chest presses. You could do preacher curls in here I mentioned before. So all these different positions and heights of the machine, of the seat, can definitely open up a lot of doors for you guys. Again, there's wobble here. We just get those little screw clips on the side that are built in. You can help kind of seal those down as well. The other function that works out pretty good that Brian stresses a lot, because he can't really do a back squat, but he still wants that compound activity of holding onto something. If you watch his Instagram videos and things of that nature, he'll hold a kettlebell and he'll position these in such a way so that you can actually load, say, a barbell or a kettlebell kind of off to the side. You don't necessarily need two of these, but just to show you what I'm talking about here, I'll rig something for you really quick. So I don't know if they were designed this way or not, but aside from just putting a kettlebell or some sort of weight there, I often put like this 25 over there and kind of held it in front of me for like a front squat position. You can do something where you unrack this and an easy curl bar sits flush flat right here. May seem a little convoluted, but believe it or not, feels pretty good and it works pretty good. And then finally, as I pretty much literally just thought about this, because an hour ago I was in the basement looking for something, quantum free trainer was in pieces, and I started thinking, which I thought about this before, attaching this on my rack, but now with this, I thought, let me see if I can attach this quantum free trainer arm onto this 3x3 rack. Works out perfectly. I didn't even try this yet without the weight on it, but you can go ahead and adjust the different angling and positions, of course. And I did try this with a landmine. It just was a little iffy without having this loader up here. And this is definitely another option for an exercise that I used to love doing the quantum free trainer with these Viking attachments and their arm, that I think is pretty unique to otherwise couldn't do. So as I said at the start of the video, I could easily go on an hour, 2 hours, not just talking about the versatile and all sorts of nuanced things you can help set up and rig and what you can use with this machine, but also just the ways you can actually maximize the key things such as the various squats, hip thrusts, and even some of the upper body options and stuff you guys can do on here. So all that to say, I think this thing is awesome. Hopefully this showed you some of the pros and cons between this and the Titan version. I think, in my opinion, humble opinion here, this is worth the extra $200 you would spend when you fully load both things, the accessory package and the Titan one. Opens up the doors for creative and ongoing things that the dynamic one, fitness one that they're producing over in Wisconsin is going to be putting out. I know Brian's got some creative ideas. I got some ideas of stuff I want to do with this as well. Not to mention some of the other perks this has going for it, such as, most notably, for example, the fact you can break this thing down and set it up with a few pins so you can move it throughout the house and transport it within like 10-ish minutes. And of course, it's always great, in my opinion, to support very good quality manufacturing in the United States and support a small business, of which, again, shameless plug, if you want to help this small business, this one here on the channel, small kickback to me, and you guys get us also a small discount off the discount code using that down below. Definitely take advantage of that if you guys are considering picking one of these up. Any questions, comments, and feedback, or especially stuff you want to see in another video, because you're going to see a lot more of this, no question, in the future, let me know, and I'll see you guys on the next